In this episode of Podcast Tactics, you will learn about a constitutional conservative's journey into podcasting. By his own admission, his show is controversial, but many of the challenges he's ran into are common among podcast creators. Listen in to learn how he's tackling these issues to add his voice to the political discourse. Before we dive into this episode, remember to join the mailing list at podcasttactics.com so you can keep learning, get inspired, and stay motivated on your podcast journey. I'm James, the host of Podcast Tactics. Thanks for listening in. Now, let's get into it. Joining me at the mic is Scott Harris from Fresno, California. Welcome to the show, Scott. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, James. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about your podcast. What's the name of the show and what's it all about?
My podcast is called Constitutional Patriot Podcast. It's very political and deals with constitutional rights and very conservative. I'm very, say it 3 times for the millennials and people in California, and those in Belinda, California, you have to say things multiple times for these people because they're dumbasses. I am extremely conservative. I'm anti-communist, right? I'm pro-gun rights, right? And basically, everything I do is constitutional, and I read from the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence all the time in my podcast, right? I quote it because we're dealing with millennials who don't know how to read. Okay, they don't know what words mean, and they're really stupid. That's the premise of my podcast.
Okay, let's talk about the origins of your show here. When did you start?
I started my podcast a year ago, just over a year ago, and it was basically to get Trump, help do what I can to get Trump elected.
Had you had podcasting experience prior to this, or so this was a totally new venture for you?
Yeah, when I wanted to get into it, so I did a lot of research, and there was this guy, he does like Podcast University or something on YouTube, and he goes, what you need to do to get into podcasting, what software and what mics and all that stuff. And so I watched like 20 hours or more of YouTube videos on how to do stuff, because I'm not a tech person. Believe it. If you look at my desk, I have like 2 computers, a Zoom H6 with like 5 wires coming out of it, and it's like the wires behind my desk. It's like I have cables everywhere. I'm not a tech person.
Well, it seems like you are now. I mean, I've got to say, like what I'm seeing, and for the listeners here, you can't see this, but for the people on YouTube, they can. But you know, you've got the mic, the headphones. I mean, you definitely ramped up on it quick. Was this your original setup, or?
Yeah, this is my original setup. Yeah, and I bought the mic. I use the Audio Technica 2100, right? Because it's both USB and XLR, right? Because I record Zoom and on my Dell. I have a Dell desktop that that you're recording me on Zoom. But when I do my video recordings, I record it on Zoom, and I save it to my Chewbacca thumb drive, right? I have see, my R2D2 thumb drive is full, right? I have like a whole row of them over here. These are my tech support. They're like Star Wars characters. And I'm a sci-fi nerd. And so basically I take it and I put it, and I do everything off of my MacBook Air, which is right down here. Okay. But I record simultaneously. This cable goes to the Dell computer. This one goes to the Zoom H6. So I can record on 2 different platforms at the same time with the same mic.
So, okay, hold on. I got to pause you there for a second. All of this you got from watching YouTube?
No, I figured this out myself.
Get out of here. Come on.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah, you did. So you are a tech. You know,
well, there had 2 plugs. It's like there was it was like, okay, what would happen? Basically, it was like, how can I figure to record audio and video at the same time, right? So it's like, well, there's 2 plugs. What if I plug this one into the Dell and this one and the black one into the Zoom H6, which is right there on a little tripod, and see what would happen? And it worked, right? but I haven't been able to do phone calls yet, right? And I haven't been able, one thing I'm not a tech person is I have some really cool bumper music. I think it's really cool. I like my headline news, if you've heard that, it's like I'm sitting here, I have to pause the video and I'm sitting like doing air guitar and like the drums and stuff. It's like, I'm having a good, and it's like, no one wants to see that. No one wants to see that. So I pause the video. I don't edit. I do not edit. I edited the first ones. Right. And then like what we talked about off recording is the ums, and I say okay a lot too. Right. Okay. And I would go and then I would like see and I would delete those out. And I'm sitting around, there has to be a better, this is taking forever. And it's like, so I decided so I record mine like a live radio show. It's live. I don't edit except for if I use an F-bomb. Right, because if I get mad about something and oh crap, I have to go back and delete the F-bomb because I don't want Apple to get pissed off at me. I was like, because I'm already in an area where I'm being cancel cultured. My people like me are being cancel cultured, are being deplatformed.
Well, that's the perfect segue into talking about challenges that you've encountered with your podcast, because no doubt, it's a controversial topic. You have, fully disclosed that. Talk about the challenges that you're running into.
Some of the challenge I'm running into is basically there's people that, for one thing, one challenge I have is money. Is I have no money to advertise, right? And that you need to advertise your podcast, right? You need to grow your audience, and I don't have enough downloads or subscribers to where I could actually start making money on it. So this is costing me, money every month and no money coming in. And so, but my topics are very, basically I support Donald Trump, right? I have a bachelor's degree in political science. Okay. An associate's degree in accounting. I have a professional clear teaching credential. I'm a teacher, right? I teach history. My credential is in social science teaching. I have my primary focus is government, and I have all the secondaries: U.S. history, world history, economics, and psychology. Okay. I can teach all social sciences. In fact, I'm more qualified for secondaries than most teachers in California that have my subject area. So the challenges that I have is basically, people don't believe me, but I don't care. I say the truth, but see, people, when I say something as a conservative, you have to have your stuff. You have to have your stuff together. You have to cite fact, because if you're wrong, then you're wrong on absolute. If you're wrong on one little thing as a conservative, you're wrong on everything. Okay, that's one challenge I have, is that when I'm citing facts, I have to know what I'm talking about. And so there's a lot of research and I use a lot of video, and I use a lot of news articles from very conservative news organizations that have been proven correct, and not like MSNBC, CNN, and the other ones who have to have printed and who had to have retractions posted, which they only post on the back page of their website. That's one of the challenges I have.
Can you talk a little bit about how the podcasting platform for you has functioned to give you amplification to your voice, to your ideals?
I think it is the podcasting today. It would be what would be like the 1700s pamphlets. When people would circulate pamphlets around, they would print them up, and then printers would print them up, and they would just circulate pamphlets around people's ideas. That's what podcasting is today, right? It's the modern day committee of correspondence from the Revolutionary War period. That's what this is, because there's podcasts about absolutely everything. It's like, I did a search about podcasts, and I have to say, there's some weird podcasts out there. Right. There's like one on like porn stars dating people. And then there's another one on like cats, people just like talk about cats and hair. It's like, can you really talk about hair for an hour? It's like, I mean, what's there to talk about? My podcasts are an hour and a half long to 2 hours. Okay. I cover a lot of stuff, right? And I saw one, it was on hairstyles, and it was like 2 hours long. Can you really talk about hair for 2 hours? I don't understand the stuff. He's laughing. It's like,
yes,
I mean,
you can, and there's an audience for that as well, for sure.
Yeah, it's like I don't understand that. I don't understand that. It's like, because I grew up watching C-SPAN. Okay, and politics, and that's been my life since I was like 7. Okay, I've been, when I was 14, I crossed a picket line to protest against Teamsters, and a Teamster hit me in the head with a 2x4 when I was 14. Okay, this is I have been a political activist. I mean, I've had my 7th grade teacher calls me Nazi, and because I supported Reagan. It's like, Reagan's not a Nazi. It's like, you don't know what Nazi is. My grandfather was tortured by Nazis for 2 weeks. Okay, by the Gestapo when he was a POW in World War II. Reagan is not a Nazi. This is stupid.
All right, Scott, so let me circle you back to the podcast again here. Let's talk about successes. How are you defining success for your podcast, and what have you achieved so far in this year that you've had your show in play?
Well, I'm up to 105 episodes. Okay. I'm only at like just under 3,500 downloads total. I've had a few episodes that were over 150, downloads per episode. That's a tough question. How do I define a success? It's like, if I would love to have one go viral. That would be so awesome if I could get one to go viral. Like, yeah, that would be awesome. But I had one interview with a woman, and it was all about her. She did a series on her podcast about fear and Christianity and faith and all this stuff, and about how fear affected her and affected her business and all that thing. And that interview was really good. And I'm getting positive feedback from LinkedIn, right? Because I post everything on LinkedIn, and I post everything on Facebook as well. I'm going to be switching over to Rumble, because I think if I could get I had one success I had is I had 2 trolls. Right, I had 2 trolls, so I was happy about that. I had these dumbass millennials who were like, he says you're an asshole, and like, okay, yeah, I got trolls, so I was like happy about that. I got some trolls.
Let's talk about, primarily your episodes seem to be as a solo podcaster.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about how you approach episode creation as a solo podcaster? How do you approach that?
I've started doing more interviews, but yeah, I am mostly solo. What I do is, it's in the morning. I watch Varney and Company, right? Love Susan Lee. I love you. I love Susan Lee. Okay, I have to say that every time. There's a rule in our house: when Susan Lee's on TV talking, there's no one allowed to say anything. Shut up, Susan Lee's talking. I love Susan Lee. Okay. No, but what I do is I watch Varney and Company and Outnumbered before I come to the office. Okay. And that gives me something to talk. And then I listen to conservative talk radio coming in, like Rush before he died, Mega Dittos and Mega Prayers, eternally to Rush. Love you. Okay. And so that I would take these things and I would have something to start with, right? Some topics to talk about. And then I have subscriptions to Washington Examiner, National Review, and the Epoch Times newspaper. Okay. Those are my 3 main sources of news articles, of print media that I use to basically go through and pick topics. Okay. And then what I've been starting to do lately, because I figured out how I could do this with the share feature on Zoom, like share screen, is I figured out how to do that. So now I go and I go into like my web into the browser, and I type, like I did one before, my intro, my monologue before I started you, is AOC insane. That's all I typed in, AOC insane, and clicked video, and they brought up these, and then I went to the filter and like for the last week, right? So insane statements by AOC. And I that's what I do, is sometimes I'll just go Newsmax or Fox News, and I pick out what's a topic, a video title from a video that I think would be interesting to do a story on, and then I do commentary. And I tell you, I have not seen this, so this is live, in person, audio commentary as it happens, because I have not seen this video. I picked it because I like the title, right? And it's like, dumbass, they don't use dumbass. And I actually did a YouTube video about From the Hip, from the 1987 movie, about the admissibility of the word ass, because I use the word dumbass when I describe Democrats. It's, you need to find a better word. And I says, give me one that's has the same. And it made me remember this movie. So I did a whole video series about that. You got to watch that. That's hilarious. My dad was busting and laughing. But that's how I do it. I just pick stuff out, and it's what's going on in the world today.
And with your interviews, how do you go about getting your guests, and how do you prepare for your interviews?
Well, I went to groups on Facebook, like conservative groups on Facebook, and I would go to find the administrators, and I would say, I'd like to interview for my podcast, right? And then I would go on LinkedIn, and I would find people that have different businesses, right, about stuff, because I'm very pro-business, right? And the one thing I want to do on the business aspect when I'm interviewing somebody about business, it's like, how does government interfere in your business? What would you like to change about the government regulation? Those are the things that I talk about, right? Because I'm all for about smaller government. And I go to different groups. I found a podcasting group on Facebook, right? I've found some people there, and I've had a couple interviews from people from that, and things like that. But it's mostly people don't want to. There's a lot of fear because of cancel culture.
Let's talk about some advice that you would give a podcaster or somebody who is interested in starting a podcast. And let's kind of focus it in on, like, your genre, the political genre. And let's even focus it even more, conservatism, constitutional conservatism, maybe even libertarian. Like, what kind of advice would you give somebody who's interested in that?
Libertarians are interesting people. Libertarians, I think, basically, they're conservatives who are scared to be called conservatives, right? That's what libertarians are. They're for liberty. They're for liberty. Well, guess what? If you're for liberty and you agree with all these things, I have news for you. You're conservative. You just don't want to be called conservative. That's what it is. They're in denial that they're conservatives. That's my viewpoint on libertarians. But okay, so advice to conservative podcasters: prepare to be cancel cultured. Prepare to be called racist. Everything you say, no matter what facts you project, right? You could be talking about income levels of different economic groups during different administrations, right? And I do this all the time. I'd get in debates with professors in college about this all the time, and you have to be prepared to accept the fact that they're going to call you a racist, right? And there's a lot, you have to grow a thick skin, right? So you have to be prepared for lies to be told about you. So that's one of the things.
Let's go back to your podcast. Let's get into a time machine. Let's go a year into the future. What does your podcast look like?
Well, hopefully it will be making some money, at least to cover hopefully some of the cost of the production of my podcast. What will it look like in a year? Oh, geez. I'm hopefully that I have a co-host that I'm trying to work with, but she's going through some family issues right now, to have a co-host who was actually worked for Mike Pence when he was governor of Indiana, and so hopefully we can get that going. And it would be, I would love to get an interview with Ted Cruz, right? Or Mike Rubio, right? Marco Rubio, right? Or anybody from the Trump family. Oh my God, that would be fantastic. That's not going to happen, but it was like, that would be awesome if I could do that. But Ted Cruz, or even my Congressman Devin Nunes, right? He rocks. He's the minority leadership on the House Intelligence Committee, and he's very good. He's a smart guy. That would be nice. I also want to have a multinational forum on religious freedom, and to highlight the concentration camps that are in China against the Chinese Communist Party. Right. Anastasia Lynn. Oh, that would be awesome if I could interview Anastasia Lynn. the 2015 Canadian Miss World Canada 2015, who basically she's her entire career. She's an actress, but mostly what she does is she highlights the inhumane treatment of the people suffering under the Chinese communist rule. So, and she did a lecture series at the Oxford University on "We Should Have a New Cold War Against China," which I did a hour-long podcast and a 3-part video series on the Constitutional Patriot Podcast YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe.
So, Scott, I have one more question for you before you wrap things up, although you're beating me to the punch there by wrapping it up like that. One more question before we wrap things up here.
Yeah.
Which famous person, and I think I actually know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Okay. Which famous person or celebrity would you be excited to learn that they listen to your podcast?
Oh.
Just one, please.
Just one. Okay. Or listen to it on a regular basis, or at least just one episode.
Ooh, that's a good turnaround. I'm going to say on a regular basis, just to dial it in.
Okay, dial. I would say Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity.
Yeah. That seems appropriate.
Yeah. I would have said Rush Limbaugh. What I refer to in my podcast on a normal basis, because he is the inspiration to my podcast.
Scott, please tell our listening audience where people can learn more about you and your show, please.
Okay. You can go to the Constitutional Patriot Podcast YouTube channel. And I have I post my videos there. You can go to the ScottHarrisTax.com, and on my website, Scott Harris Tax, because I do taxes in Fresno, California, $185 out the door, all forms included. But I have a podcast tab on my website. You can click it, and there's a picture of the Sons of Liberty flag with 2 M16 rifles and a Liberty Bell. Click on that. It will take you to my Buzzsprout page, where you can see all my get to listen to all my audio videos. I'm on iHeartRadio. I'm on iTunes. I'm on pretty much everything, wherever podcasts are found. Just go Constitutional Patriot Podcast. Please subscribe, and please go to on my webpage, ScottHarrisTax.com, the podcast. There's a thing for PayPal donate, so please contribute. And on the Constitutional Patriot Podcast YouTube channel, go to the About section and click the PayPal donate, and you can contribute there as well for a tip jar.
thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate your time. Thanks again to Scott. Check the show notes for links to learn more about Scott and his show, Constitutional Patriot Podcast. I would love to hear what you got out of this episode. Please let me know by leaving a review on podchaser.com. The show notes has info for how to do this, and feel free to make suggestions for what I can do to make this show even better for you. And make sure you follow Podcast Tactics to learn even more about podcasting in future episodes. Thank you.